Yesterday you pulled 4 plates, you took a look at the video, you saw there's a bit of rounding, and this morning you're stiff as a board getting out of bed. And every technique video you see on Instagram is gonna give you the same advice, right? More posterior chain work, keep your back position more flat, and to be frank with you, that's valid, but there's one step that all of those pieces of advice skip that stop them from really working. And so right now, what I wanna show you is what's actually happening in your body when your back rounds, when you pull more than 405, because once you understand the real mechanism of what's causing the rounding, it becomes really, really simple to fix it instead of just thinking about squeeze your glutes harder and keep your back flat to keep a neutral spine. I'm Matt, I've been coaching competitive powerlifters since 2014, and I know this works because what I'm gonna show you is really the key piece of bracing advice that I used with one lifter in particular who their back pain was so bad that they could deadlift once a month and basically spend the next month recovering. And what we did with them is exactly what I'm gonna show you and how we got them unstuck to where now they've pulled nearly triple body weight and are pain-free. And really, they were stuck in that pattern that I see with almost every lifter who gets stuck in this back pain, back rounding cycle. And I'm gonna describe it to you right now. So what usually happens is I'll see a lifter, they're in sort of mid 400s as their max, and they'll load up about 405, so 90-ish%, and they'll take a look at their footage, or they'll even see it when it happens or feel it, where they just start to round over and then they'll feel it the next day. They'll pay for it for a few days where they're just like really stiff, and it takes this like weird mental gymnastics to get out of bed without twisting or rounding, and they like put their socks on weird and all of that. It's really uncomfortable, but really what's worse about it is like the mental games that you have to go through where your goal as a power lifter is to increase your 1 rep max, but at a results level, you're seeing that the only thing that you can really get better at is like lighter weight for more reps. And that's a really hard spot to be in as a lifter, because if you're squatting in the mid 400s, you know, the same as your deadlift, and you're seeing your squat continue to go up, but you can't push your deadlift, the biggest lever you can pull on your total is basically at a standstill, right? Not to mention all the pain and stiffness that comes with this. And it's easy to get caught up in this idea that, well, you just can't handle heavy deadlifts, or, you know, you really struggle to get your glutes and hamstrings stronger, or whatever it may be. And so the pattern that I was actually telling you about, this idea of like doing more glute and hamstring work, comes up where they'll know that, okay, I start rounding over at 405, and so I'm gonna start doing some RDLs as accessory work, and I'm gonna start doing some good mornings and some back extensions, and maybe even they toss in some like hinge drills like this to really emphasize keeping a flat back, which is actually overextended, but that's a conversation for a different day. And then they go back to pulling 405, and it's exactly the same problem, right? So the analogy I like to use here is, imagine trying to build a skyscraper, right? And you're building the skyscraper and you're like, I need to make it as strong as possible. We're gonna have these plated windows all the way up. It'll be reflective and beautiful. I need to figure out how to make the glass stronger so that this skyscraper doesn't fall over. And that sounds kind of messed up, right? When you're thinking about just keeping your back flat, you're using your erectors. You're not really generating any intra-abdominal pressure, which is what's going to allow force to go through your spine instead of to your spine. And when you're thinking about building a skyscraper, your actually strongest lever you can pull is drilling deep into the ground, creating a strong foundation, having the structure of the building being built out of steel and concrete. And when we can do that, that's the strategy that I'm going to walk you through right now. So what we need to go after with a proper brace, which is what gets messed up in the deadlifting, is understanding that we're not just trying to push our belly out into our belt. And so when we have our belt like this, right, a lot of lifters think, okay, well, I need to take a belly breath, right? Because I don't want to take a breath into my chest. And that's part of the solution, but there's 2 errors that happen with this. Number 1 is the sequence that they do it in that they'll think about breathing in and then push all of that air into the belt. And then the second error is the actual direction they're going with the air. They're pushing about 180 degrees at best. They're pushing forward into their belt, and they'll feel it a lot when they pull, where they can't really generate any pressure through here or through here, and it never really feels like their belt can get tight. And we'll see them kind of, their belt wander around quite a lot as they deadlift or as they pull, where it moves in relation to the rest of their torso. And so all you need to do to fix this is flip the sequence that you take your breath and brace with, and 2, change how you brace. So here's how you do it. You're gonna take a crab claw with your finger. You're gonna put your thumb behind your kidney and your index finger just inside your hip bone. You're gonna breathe out. Without breathing in, you're going to tense where your thumb and your index finger are and try to separate your fingers, right? If you can do that and then breathe into that, you're braced and ready to go. And you'll feel that it's a much bigger, fuller brace where it's not just your belly pushing out, but it's your kidneys pushing outwards, it's your back pushing outwards. And when you're wearing a belt, that level of pressure that you can create is multiples of what you'll have ever felt if you're just thinking about keeping your back flat. And what that allows us to do is to have a stiffer spine so that the force can go through our spine and into the floor, which allows us to get A, better force transfer from our glutes and our hamstrings, and B, allows for less movement here because this is all stiffer in the first place. And really the difference that this makes is by not having all this flexion and extension going on through your spine and just creating a stable platform to work from, you can now start to pull heavier and heavier and actually chase top singles instead of getting stuck with lower reps and, more importantly, not crawling out of bed awkwardly in the morning the day after.